As we round out the last few weeks of 2020, it's an obvious and convenient time to reflect back on the year, take stock of some of the milestones and the memories. Now, as I say this, some of you out there might have thought about the minefield that this year has been, especially with certain heavily reactive topics like anything dealing with politics or anything dealing with politicians. So we think it's best to steer clear of those memories. As a marijuana organization, we have a daily practice from social media in understanding the difference between interactions with human people and interactions with troll-type people. So, in this Daily Dose 2020 year wrap-up, we're going to take a glance at 8 amazing things that happened this year in TerraVida and in cannabis at large. So my name is Scott Goddard. This is the Daily Dose, provided by TerraVida. Well, welcome everybody to the show. As I said, we're going to go over a list of 8 amazing things that happened this year in TerraVida and in cannabis. So to start off the list, so we all know this has been a year dominated by the pandemic, COVID-19. But there have been some things we were actually able to get done as a result of these sort of strange times. So the first thing on our list, when COVID hit, the DOH actually ended up allowing a couple of things to be added to the program. And TerraVida was excited to expand 2 new features to our business. The first thing that some of you may have noticed is we added a curbside feature. And what this means is you can come up to the dispensary having pre-ordered your cart, and without having to leave your car, you can still perform a compliant transaction in compliance with the DOH. So that was one thing we were glad to add. And the second thing, which I don't think anybody really saw coming, was actually the caregiver program. Now this is something that is a free service, and it allows us to have our caregivers connect with your DOH account and be able to get your medicine to you without you having to leave the house. So this was something that I don't think anybody thought we would see until maybe recreational market came through. Usually it takes quite a while for most regulatory bodies to get up with it, but because of COVID, we wanted less people to have to come inside. We wanted people to still have access. So TerraVida is dedicated to making sure you can get your medicine in as many ways as is possible. So that's one amazing thing that we're able to get done this year. Now, the second thing in our list of interesting and amazing things in 2020, you may or may not have known that although the DOH relaxed some of the regulations on the dispensary, they also did the same for patients. You see, the Act of 2016 tells patients they are limited to buy only about a month's supply and a week of cannabis. But because of COVID, and once again, trying to make sure people don't have to keep coming back to the dispensary, the DOH has allowed patients to be able to buy a full 90-day supply in one shot if they're able to. That way they can reduce the amount of times they have to go out. Now, to me, when I first heard it, that was an exciting fact. However, sometimes it's more of a financial barrier than it is a volumetric barrier. And for me, I'm kind of curious. I wonder exactly how much cannabis would it take to clear 90 days before you'd have to come back. So if any of you out there might know or think about it, feel free to leave in the comments below, how much cannabis do you think you would need to clear 90 days before you'd have to go back and make another purchase? It'd be interesting to see exactly the differences in some people's approach. So let's have a little fun with that one at least, and throw that down in the comments itself. Now, for our number 3 thing on this list of amazing things that happened in 2020 in cannabis, it didn't start out amazing, honestly. In August, especially our patients in the Sellersville area knew that the river blew its banks and the Sellersville dispensary flooded. There's actually a statement we have from the fire department, which is our direct neighbor in that parking lot, concerning the matter. So on Tuesday, August 4th, Sellersville and the surrounding area was hit hard by Tropical Storm Isaiah. Many areas throughout the region received over 6 inches of rain in the mid-morning hours, causing flooding from local waterways. Due to this flooding, the decision was made to evacuate all equipment from the firehouse, as Main Street was covered in water and became impassable. While apparatus was stationed on both ends of town, the department received numerous calls for water rescues and other incidents throughout the day. Over 20 people were rescued from their homes along Main Street. And as you probably guessed it, the dispensary is located on that very same area of Main Street. Depending on where you stood in the building, it was between 2 and 4 feet of water in there. I know we had a dumpster go into the river. Some of the cars had to be totaled. So, unfortunately, not only was it a difficulty with a natural disaster, but then when you try to rebuild, everything's COVID restricted and it's hard to get contractors and hard to get things done quickly. So it took a little while, but I would welcome anybody in that area. If you haven't been able to get to the dispensary in a while, please visit Sellersville. The remodel was finished right between September and October, and we are now bigger, stronger, with more terminals, and just a nicer layout overall, bigger dispensary area, so that way you can get your medicine in the best comfort and care we can afford. So it did start out as lemons, but we did our best to make some lemonade for all the patients out there in Sellersville. Thanks also for you bearing with us as we operated through that, and we're glad at least that that's in the rearview mirror for us this year. So on our list, the number 4 amazing thing we wanted to list comes from the national level of news. It's actually very recently happened. You may have heard that there was a bill featuring cannabis that passed the House of Representatives. And I'm talking federal Congress here, right, down in D.C. It's called the MORE Act when you look into it, and it was able to pass, thankfully, with like a 2-to-1 vote in the House. Now it has to go through the Senate, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. But even if it just dies where it is, this is still a historically momentous moment for cannabis. Marijuana has never really federally made its way into Congress, so we applaud the efforts, seeing the first time it goes through, and what a year for it to especially happen on that. Now, when you look into the MORE Act itself, there are 2 main focal points that you'll read about. The main thing is that the MORE Act is going to create federal decriminalization. And how that is it removes marijuana from the Controlled Substance Act, where it currently sits as a Schedule I substance. It's one of the reasons why we have such a hard time being able to do and expand the marijuana field, because it is considered Schedule I. Now, the second focal point on that bill is actually a 5% proposed federal tax on all marijuana products. And no one was really particularly happy to read about that provision. However, all things considered, if you look a little deeper into it, that 5% tax is supposed to sort of fund a cannabis activism sort of thing, and that way people who have been imprisoned, unduly affected by the war on drugs, it'll help them be able to expunge and get back on their feet and get back into society in a healthy manner. So again, nobody wants pricier cannabis out there, certainly, but we would love to see everybody be able to upgrade along with the law, especially those who have been harmed. So, once again, just a good thing to see some forward motion in a year that has been otherwise very restrictive. Now, number 5 thing in Pennsylvania cannabis news, so it's more of a local idea, is Tom Wolf said he was thinking about recreational marijuana. And the crowd goes wild. This was about mid-October this happened in the news, and it seemed that he got the whole state together and told them that he wanted to make a push for a recreational market in Pennsylvania. Now, we are all very, very hopeful that we can see a recreational market happen soon, of course, for responsible adult use. But if other states are any example, as we've seen many states try, it'll be a toss-up as far as exactly where the lines are drawn between how much it costs and how much the state taxes are, and who gets licenses and what we're allowed to do. So it takes a little bit of time, just like the federal proposal that's currently in Congress. Nothing will happen overnight. Remember, even the act we currently are able to benefit from in Pennsylvania, the PA Medical Marijuana Act of 2016, took about 2 years before the first dispensaries, Sellersville being one of them, were open to provide cannabis to the public. So even if they said tomorrow we could do it, it'd probably be another year or 2 before we see the boots on the ground. But, once again, just like with Congress, glad to see some forward motion overall. Now, in tune with that sort of national level cannabis news, in the election cycle we had, the general election of November 4th, we actually had 5 states add access nationally in this election cycle. So that means that we have 10% more states in the union actually have access to cannabis. And I'll go down the list for you so you can see exactly where the pieces fall. Arizona was a state that added actually recreational access this election cycle. We had New Jersey, our friend and neighbor, finally was able to get the recreational bill passed. They tried really hard the last couple of years, and it finally went through. And we all kind of feel that's probably going to put some pressure on Pennsylvania to step things up and hopefully get to recreational just as quickly. South Dakota uniquely passed 2 different measures. One that legalizes medical marijuana, and the other one that allows for recreational access. So whereas a lot of states kind of do it small bites, one and then the other step years later, South Dakota, they were a little ahead of the curve and they went for both in one shot. So much luck to their programs as they start to get it all together. We had Mississippi. They look like they added some recreational access as well. And Montana added recreational access. So those are the big five that were all able to expand or create new marijuana programs in their states. But lastly and not leastly, the wild card in this whole deck of cannabis news is Oregon. The state of Oregon passed a measure to, of all things, decriminalize all drugs. And that is kind of bonkers to think about, right? Here we are, hoping and dreaming that just cannabis is finally able to get into the right legal area. And Oregon is looking forward to all of the other things that people think about concerning access and legality. So, hats off to a state which is surely looking forward. I don't really think anybody saw this coming. But that statement really kind of feels like the theme for this year, right? Nobody really saw any of this coming. We're just happy something happened more on the positive side of things. Now, number 7 thing on our list of 8 amazing things that happened, we have some new grower processors in our dispensaries here at TerraVida. If you look around onto the menus, you'll see we added, I believe, INSA this year, who makes quite a bit of flower, and we actually had them on one of our live streams if you check the back episodes. We had Franklin Labs come through with some cannabis as well. Curaleaf and their new Select line of products. We had them on a couple episodes ago on the live stream. And also some other unique products like Hanging Gardens, bringing these medicated suppositories. I'm not sure you're going to find these in too many other dispensaries in the state, but suppositories are going to be one of those things that really can help for folks who have GI issues and might not be able to use a route through the stomach to have access to their GI tract. I think they recently also brought some liquid live resin. So all in all, as you look through the menus, you're going to see just a lot more interesting and new products added to it, and we look forward to that process continuing into the new year. So, more products, more cannabis, usually is a pretty amazing thing for the year. And our final ticket item on the list, the number 8 amazing thing that happened, is we started this, the Daily Dose Show. It was actually something that we had the idea of right as COVID hit. We wanted to make sure we could still talk to the patients and show them that kindness at home. We were able to, I think, put our first episode out in the beginning of July. So if you go back into our backlog, you'll see about every 2 weeks since then, we've been putting out a little bit of content, trying to help guide you through the medical marijuana program with the best information and tactics we have available. This is actually, I think, our 14th video. So there's quite a bit back there if you want to cruise through. We talk about things like how to properly care for your cannabis and storage, tips on edibles, some of the unique differences between liquid live resin, distillate, and CO2 cartridges. Also, we take a deep look at RSO and to understand it better. And as I mentioned, we've even interviewed a few of our grower processors like INSA and the Grassroots Curaleaf company, who is the largest cannabis company on the planet. And I would say hearing what they have to say about the future of cannabis is pretty important. So by all means, check out our back catalog and give it a look. But that is generally our list of 8 amazing things. And it makes you kind of wonder, well, what are we going to look forward to next year in 2021? If you keep your eyes peeled, keep staring at our menu, I can tell you you're likely to see some more new products and grower processors coming online shortly. If nothing else, even if all the other laws that we talked about still kind of get stonewalled, we know that next year means more cannabis in Pennsylvania, and that is a good thing. So this is actually our wrap-up episode because it is also our season finale for our season 1, our last episode of the season. And season 2 will start right after the holidays, so you don't have to wait too long for new content. We'll have more information and news about medical marijuana to help, because TerraVida is dedicated to patient-focused care, so we want to provide as much as we can to our adult public so that they can be able to make the best and informed decisions as possible. Now, if there are any topics you want to hear about, anything that speaks to you or you want a little bit more explanation on, please be sure to put any curiosity, any questions, anything you're thinking about medical marijuana, or that you want us to talk about in season 2, throw it down in the comments below. We'd love to hear about what you're thinking and what you want to know about. We'll also have a link in the description so that way you can fill out and message us directly with some of your thoughts and maybe topics that you want to hear about on the show. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this content if you enjoyed it. hit the notifications bell right under the screen. As we come up with season 2, we want to be sure that you know exactly when it hits. That way you can get the content right away, and it surely helps us out if you do. Now that is all I have for you today. So, from the Daily Dose desk here, this is Scott and Tim behind the camera, our video editor, and from the whole of the TerraVita family and team, from top to bottom, we want to wish you all a very safe and prosperous holiday. Make sure to check out. We'll see you in season 2. And until then, be well, stay safe and healthy, and good luck to everybody in the new year. Thanks for tuning in.